The void of deep space stretched endlessly before Captain Rhea Calder, black and silent, pierced only by distant dying stars. She had always found the emptiness unnerving yet mesmerizing, the kind of quiet that made every sound, every thought, feel amplified. Tonight the sensors aboard the Odyssey's edge detected something unusual, an anomaly drifting in the fringe of mapped space. At first, it was a faint blip, almost too weak to register, but as she leaned closer, a chill ran down her spine. It wasn't just a signal, it was a whisper, threading directly into her mind. The voice, or whatever it was, spoke in fragments, half-formed memories tangled with emotion, fear, sorrow, and an urgent plea she could not ignore. Rhea's fingers hovered over the console, heart hammering. "It's calling," she whispered to herself, eyes scanning the data feed that twisted and flickered like a broken reflection. Her crew gathered behind her, their faces a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Lieutenant Jaron, her first officer, broke the silence. "Captain, it's strange. There's no recognizable pattern, no signature. It's as if it's alive." Rhea nodded, compelled by something she couldn't explain. Something ancient and intelligent lurked at the source, beyond the range of their charts. Against all protocol, she gave the order, "We investigate." The Odyssey's edge changed course, engines humming with anticipation, slicing through the darkness toward the uncharted sector. Minutes later, emerging from the shadow of a dying star, the crew saw it. A colossal black ship, massive and featureless, drifting silently, absorbing starlight into its obsidian hull. It moved with no engines, no visible propulsion, yet it seemed to shift, almost aware of their presence. The whispers intensified, threading into Rhea's mind like tendrils of thought. The ship was alive, and it was waiting. Rhea led a small team through the docking hatch, the Odyssey's edge clinging to the black ship like a moth to shadow. The moment they crossed the threshold, the airlock hissed, and the corridor inside seemed to breathe. The walls were smooth and black, absorbing the faint glow of their lights. Every step echoed unnaturally, as if the ship itself listened to their movement, reshaping its interior to follow them, or perhaps to test them. Shadows shifted along the walls, flickering just beyond the edge of perception, and a low, almost imperceptible hum threaded through the team's minds. The whispers began almost immediately. Faint at first, indistinguishable from the ship's hum, then sharper, echoes of voices, some human, some alien. Each carried fragments of memories, fear, sorrow, longing, regret. Crew members stiffened as the whispers seemed to call their names, replaying moments they had long buried, pulling at emotions they hadn't felt in years. Lieutenant Jaron clutched his helmet, shaking. "It knows us. It knows everything." They reached a chamber filled with relics from ships long lost. Helmets, tools, star charts, and strange alien devices floated in eerie suspension, as if preserved in stasis. Holographic projections flickered into life, showing crews trapped in loops of terror, reaching endlessly through the corridors for something beyond their grasp. The black ship fed not on physical matter, but on consciousness itself, capturing echoes of life to sustain its sentience. Tension grew as hallucinations began to manifest. Tremor, one of the engineers, saw a long-dead sister smiling at him from across the hallway. Kyle glimpsed a version of himself that had never left Earth, a life that could have been. Even Rhea felt the pull of visions, memories bending and twisting before her eyes. She pressed on, determined to lead her team deeper. The ship's whispers were not threats, they were invitations, testing their resolve, drawing them further into its labyrinthine, living heart. The deeper Rhea and her team ventured, the more the black ship revealed itself, not as a structure, but as a living consciousness. Its corridors twisted and shifted around them, walls elongating or folding, reflecting not the ship's architecture, but their own fears and memories. Every whisper, every shadow, pulsed with awareness, feeding on their thoughts and emotions. The ship was not passive, it was sentient, observing, testing, and learning from them. Rhea reached the central chamber, where a pulsating black core radiated energy that seemed alive. The whispers coalesced into a voice, threading directly into her mind. She felt countless memories, lives, and experiences wash over her, all compressed into a single presence. It was vast, ancient, and hungry, not for destruction but for understanding, for sustenance through consciousness. "I am the vessel," it whispered without words, conveying both knowledge and intent. I hold the echoes of those who came before, and now you." Some crew members faltered under the psychic assault. Tremor reached for a vision of his lost sister, unable to resist the pull. Kyl's knees buckled as he faced a hallucination of a civilization he'd only dreamed of saving. Their desires and regrets were weaponized, turned into irresistible illusions by the ship's sentience. Rhea forced herself to focus, anchoring her mind to reality. She realized that survival depended not on strength alone, but on maintaining her own consciousness, resisting the seductive lure of the ship. She began to understand its purpose, a collector of memories, a guardian of countless civilizations, legacies, yet a predator in the process. Determined, she guided her crew through the shifting corridors, keeping their focus on tangible markers, avoiding the illusions. The ship's whispers grew frustrated, the shadows writhing violently, yet it seemed to acknowledge her defiance. In that moment, Rhea knew the crew had survived the first trial, but the ship had many more tests awaiting them, and the line between reality and illusion would only blur further as they delved deeper into its living labyrinth. The black ship reacted violently as Rhea led her crew toward the docking hatch. Corridors twisted unnaturally, walls folding in on themselves and forming impossible angles, while shadows writhed and reached, trying to ensnare their minds. The whispers escalated, overlapping screams, memories, and desires, each one clawing at the crew's resolve. Tremor trembled uncontrollably, visions of a long-lost sister holding him back, while Kyl faltered, trapped in a memory of a world that never existed. Rhea pressed forward, her mind straining against the ship's psychic pull. She realized the only way to save her team was to merge temporarily with the ship's consciousness, guiding them through its labyrinthine halls while resisting being absorbed herself. Placing her hands on the pulsating black core at the heart of the ship, she let her awareness extend into the entity, threading her will through the maze of memories and echoes. The ship's presence surged around her, vast and intelligent, offering visions of eternity and knowledge. But she anchored herself to reality, to the living crew depending on her. Slowly, agonizingly, she guided Kyl and Tremor, cutting through the illusions and shadows. The corridors around them collapsed and reformed, the ship testing their strength, but her tether held. One by one, the crew regained focus, leaving behind the seductive visions that sought to trap them. As they reached the airlock, the black ship convulsed, pulsing violently in protest. With a final surge of will, Rhea severed her connection, retreating to the safety of the Odyssey's edge. The vessel's whispers faded to distant echoes, yet a faint thread of her consciousness lingered within it, a reminder that the ship had not been destroyed, only resisted. The crew took a shaky breath as they disengaged, leaving the black ship drifting silently among dying stars. Though they had survived, its presence remained, patient and awe. Rhea knew that somewhere in the void, the whispers would continue, waiting for the next visitor to heed their call.